Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Melissa if you haven't been here before. Today what we're going to do is we're actually going to be having a special guest. You won't see him, but you'll hear him. It's my husband is going to be reading us ghost stories today. It's the first day of October, so we're going to have some spooky ghost stories for you. He's going to be reading them to me and you. And I'm going to be doing my makeup in the process. So if that's something you want to see, if you want to have some spooky time, then just keep watching. Alright, so while he reads, I'm going to be doing my makeup, so y'all aren't going to see the products that I'm using. I'll try to leave them below in the description box. But we're going to go ahead and get into it. He's going to start reading the first story, and I'm going to start doing my eyeshadow. So here we go.
First story. Title: Slumber Party. I was at a slumber party in the 8th grade with a few of my friends when we decided, stupidly, to have a seance in her unfinished basement. We were having fun and giggling, and we were trying to figure out who to summon when someone suggested Jack the Ripper. I immediately got a pit in my stomach. No, I spoke up. We shouldn't summon something evil. That's right, called a man's voice from the other side of the cellar. There were no boys or men there. We were alone in the house. Another girl and myself heard it.
I don't know about having a seance. Like, I couldn't do that. I'm too scared.
Yeah, as I always say, can't say that I believe in ghosts, but I'm not eager for any ghost to try to prove it to me that they are real.
Yeah.
I damn sure ain't gonna go looking for them. Alright, second story. Has no title. When I was 15, I traveled to Europe with my family. We stayed in Etel, Germany, in a small inn for a few nights. My parents had a double bed on the 2nd floor. My sisters had a double bedroom next to theirs, and I was lucky enough to have a single room all to myself at the far end of the hall. We went to check into our rooms. As soon as I entered the hallway where our rooms were, I remember almost feeling as though I walked into a wall of bad energy. I just felt so unnerved and uneasy in that hallway, but I passed it off as an overactive imagination. I slept the first night without any issues other than waking up a few times. The next morning at breakfast, one of my sisters mentioned feeling really uncomfortable in the hallway, almost as if there were almost as if the air was crushing. It unnerved me even more that I wasn't the only one who felt weirded out. Plus, she was an adult at the time, so it further cemented in my head that the wing of the hotel was odd. Later that night, I'm sleeping peacefully when about 2 a.m. I'm woken by something ripping the covers off of me and being jerked about 2 feet towards the end of the bed by my ankle. At first I thought someone had broken into my room because when I turned toward what had grabbed me, a huge luminate black shape was visible in the darkness, like a man was in my room. I frantically flipped on the light only for there to have been nothing there. The window was locked from the inside. There was no one in the closet or the bathroom, and my room was also still locked from the inside. I stayed up the rest of the night scared, playing Cookie Mama on my DS. The next morning we were at breakfast, and my sister mentions that she was up half the night because she thought she saw a person silhouetted against the wall of her room, but when she turned on the light, no one was there. It was just bizarre and a creepy experience. We checked out that day, so I didn't get to experience anything after that, but it still freaks me out to this day.
Yeah, see, if you have somebody else that says it, then that's even scarier.
Call me crazy, but if seeing things can be a figment of your imagination, being yanked to the end of your bed,
Yeah.
I'm going to be with mom and daddy at that point.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, like this. Don't necessarily believe in ghosts, but the moment I got proof, I'm done with that game.
Mm-hmm.
Next story is titled Shh. As told by Reddit user Fuzzy Bandits. When I was a teenager, I used to babysit my cousin Alyssa. She was little, maybe almost 2, maybe a little older, old enough to say sentences. I'm giving her a bath before bed when she looks out into the hallway and gets a terrified look on her face and starts crying. At this moment, my aunt's Pomeranian starts going nuts as well, barking and growling into the hallway. The atmosphere in the room became uncomfortable, and I started getting scared. I took her downstairs from the 3rd floor in the townhouse to try to calm her down. I asked her what was wrong, and she said something along the lines of, "The man with the black eyes was there." When I continued to pry, she looked up the 2nd floor stairs, her eyes getting big, and looked at me, bringing her finger to her mouth and said, "Shh," while shaking her head no.
See, that's another thing when you got dogs barking and dogs looking at something that they ain't there.
But yeah, I'm so glad like none of our kids ever had imaginary friends or anything like that, because that's what a lot of people explain it away with. They were like, "Oh, you know, they's got imaginary friends."
Yeah.
I don't want my kids talking to anybody that ain't there.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, sometimes I want them talking to people that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Next story, titled Unwanted Tenants. As told by Reddit user Vanilla Gorilla.
Interesting name.
Yes. My daughter was 4 years old when we lived in our last home. I was a single mom at the time, so it was just she and I alone in the home. I always got an uncomfortable feeling in her room, particularly the closet area, but never thought much of it. Until one evening, I put her to bed, and as I was doing chores, I walked by her room and heard her whispering. I listened for a bit, thinking she was talking to herself, but it was definitely a two-way conversation, with her saying, "uh-huh," and "okay," and stuff like that. I walked in and asked her who she was talking to. She smiled uncomfortably and said, "No one." I took her out to the hallway, and she wouldn't say anything, but I could tell that she was afraid. Finally, we went outside of the house. She said there was a man in her room who didn't want us to be in the house. He told her to say this and to tell her mom to leave. I moved us out a month later. She has never had an episode like this again.
Bye-bye. I'll be gone in a heartbeat just like her.
Yeah, I said I don't do imaginary friends. Like I said, if our kids would have had an imaginary friend, probably would have had us moving out of the house too.
Mm-hmm.
Next story is titled Click Click. This was around 2013. I just graduated from college and I was living with my parents again in a house where weird things were always happening. It was around 3 a.m.
Witching hour.
All these stories take place around 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it was around 3 a.m. and I was working as a freelance video editor, editing a lo-fi, very, very bad music video for a local artist on my desk in my bedroom. My back was to the bed behind me. My dog, Kobo, a pit bull lab mix, was lying next to me on the floor, fast asleep. After hours of watching the music video over and over again and listening to the same song on repeat for days, I decided to mute the edit as I worked on some of the effects, my headphones still on. Then I heard a click click. The lamp next to my bed, which had one of those twist switches across the room, turned off and then on again. Kovu sat up. He was staring directly above the lamps, his eyes fixed. But since I had my headphones on, I thought I'd imagine what had just happened. Maybe the delirium of being awake that late and working on the same thing was making my head spin. I turned to continue to work, headphones off. Click, 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 off on, twice. The dog was growling now, The hair on the back of his neck stood up, and his gaze hadn't moved since the click started. I stared in the direction of the lamp. A chill ran down my spine because the room became cold. I was frozen. I slowly turned and looked at my laptop. Kovu was still growling and slowly got up. Click, 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 click. Off on, off on, off on, off on, off on, off on, off on. Kovu started barking. The light was just flicking off and on repeatedly, so I picked him up, ran out to my sister's room, and slept on the floor. The next day I moved all my stuff into the spare room.
Yep. That is,
I'm not, the room, I'm out the house.
Gone.
I mean, and I've heard several stories where people like, I moved out of that room. So you still in the same house with a ghost.
Yeah.
The ghostly staircase incident. When my little brother was 4 or 5, he used to get really scared walking upstairs alone. We never really knew why. One evening, I was the one who volunteered to take him upstairs. We're about 3/4 of the way up. He shouted, "Stop!" It was so abrupt, and he looked so scared. He said, "We have to wait for the lady to let us pass." I was immediately shaken. After a few moments, he turned to me and smiled and said, "She'll let us pass. She likes you." At this point, my heart was in my ass. I'm not cussing, it's in the story. I told my mother about it the next morning. She turned white. She told me the house we bought was really cheap because a woman in her 60s hung herself from the banister over the stairs. It was safe to say I never walked up the stairs on my own at night again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because the kid obviously didn't know that. He didn't know that a woman had been hung there.
Yeah.
And he said the woman, we gotta wait till the woman lets us pass. Meaning there's a ghost hanging from your banister.
Yeah. That one was a little much.
Alright. No title. I'm a nurse and I've done many night shifts. One night I was doing a night shift at a hospital I'd never worked at before. She must be one of them traveling nurses. They make pretty good money.
Yeah.
On my break, I took a blanket and a pillow and found an empty small day room to rest for a while. The pillow was super cold, and all of a sudden I just knew someone was in the room behind my chair. I could feel my pillow slowly being moved up the chair away from me, and I was utterly paralyzed with fear. After about 30 seconds, the feeling left, and it didn't seem so cold. I fled back to the nursing station. I told the regular nurses about my experience. They knew exactly which room I had been in. I've never done a night shift there again.
Yeah. Yeah, haunted hospital.
Seems like a good place to be haunted.
Yeah.
Seems likely if anywhere is going to be haunted.
Yeah.
Next story. No title, but we're going to call it Marcia. In 2014, we had our daughter, Addison, who would babble at night a lot. As her words got better, I realized she was legitimately having a conversation with somebody. Over time, when I was tucking her in, she would talk about her dark friend that would come and visit her. Around this time, I learned from a neighbor that the woman who had owned the house before us was a sweet old lady who passed away from cancer. Her name was Marcia. My ex never believed Addison until one day he finally just asked her if her dark friend had a name. Without hesitation, she said, Marcia. I thought he was going to hit the floor. I looked up Marcia's obituary and showed it to Addison. Without any prompting, Addison identified her immediately. This is where the story takes a bit of a turn. Eventually, we left that house. 2 weeks ago, I was walking by my daughter's room and I heard her talking. I popped my head in and she slowly turned to me, smiled, and said, "Mom, Marsha found me."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, when I first read over this story, I was like, oh, this sounds kind of sweet. And then that last line, the last couple words, I was like, that's not cool.
Nope. I was gonna say I'd be gone, but she gonna keep following you, so you can't.
Yeah, so
What you gonna do?
I was under the impression that ghosts be hanging out where the hell they died at, but
Yeah, no, they didn't follow you.
that's when it's time to call a medium or something and get
Call
what you want.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, there you go. that do the job. Get what a smudging, get your house cleansed.
Yeah, get a smudging.
All right, next story. No title. When I was about 16, my family put a 4-foot tall porcelain doll in my room. You already know that's not going to go well. My dad eventually moved the doll into the corner of my room and covered it with a sheet because it scared me so much. One night I woke up in the middle of the night to pee. The doll sheet was off on the floor and the doll was in the middle of the room. Out of shock, I pissed myself. I ran downstairs, got cleaned up, and stayed there until morning. After that, my dad decided to put the doll in my closet. The next night, I woke up to a light thumping in my closet. My dad finally moved the doll to the spare room downstairs. Sorry about that, my phone keeps going off. Should have put it on vibrate.
I'm sorry.
One night, after a few months, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of the vacuum running. I went downstairs to ask my parents why they decided to vacuum in the middle of the night. As soon as I opened the door to the spare room, the vacuum stopped running. The doll was sitting in the corner. My dad had put it in, but there was stuff thrown all over the room. The vacuum cleaner wasn't even plugged in.
That doll would have been gone.
Yeah. Hey, dude, when I woke up and it was in the middle, first off, I don't want no clowns and I don't want no dolls in my room.
No.
Especially not porcelain dolls.
No.
And the moment one of them's out of place, like it's somewhere where it wasn't when I went to bed, it's gone.
Yep.
No, I'm just going to move it back over here into the corner. I'm going to put it into the closet. Now you got a monster in your damn closet.
Yep. Alright, y'all. Well, this is the look, and that was Ghost Stories with my hubby. I hope y'all really like this episode. If y'all do, we'll try to do it again. I really have fun today doing something a little different, getting a little scared for October the 1st. And I hope y'all greatly enjoyed it. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Also subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love for you to become a part of our family here. Also ring the bell so you can be notified whenever I upload my amazing content. That's going to be all for me. I hope y'all are staying happy, healthy, taking care of yourselves, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.